I remember you guys also, Ted did this in a video, and I think you wrote about it as well. But ISIS, if I'm not mistaken, actually has a lot of Sodomites in it. And because from eyewitness testimony, they say these guys go into their tents at night and screw each
ISIS is full of Sodomites.
And yet when people on the liberal, people in liberal world, they tell us, oh, it's not the LGTB chopping people's heads off. Well, yeah, it is. It's called ISIS because those guys are a bunch of sodomites. So it is very prevalent in the world of Islam.
Yeah, a bunch of sodomites. That's what they. Yeah, it's everywhere. I mean, there's a photo you can find of the president of Turkey, Erdogan. He's having dinner with Buland Eksi. For those who don't know, Buland Eksi is the most famous tranny in Turkey. He's a big singer. He's very famous with the Muslim world. He's been around for years. I mean, he's very well known. And Erdogan and his wife Emine are having dinner with him. What's all that about when Erdogan has persecuted homosexuals? Why is that? Persecuted, in quotes. Because it's the kind of homosexuality. The homosexuality that he was persecuting was not in accordance with Islamic law. He supports Ersoy, though, because Ersoy's sodomite behavior is in accordance with the law. It's not an issue of whether the practice is bad or not. It's the question of how it's done. If it's done in accordance with the Islamic law, no one's going to contest it in Islam. But if it's not, then it becomes an issue. So it's not like this is a it's these bad people doing this. This is something totally different, but that's intentionally ignored because it would distract from the political message, which is we want to use these things for our own leverage to advance our own power. That's all it is.
Well, look at the Nazis, for example. I mean, that's an example that liberals and the LGBT like to use against us all the time when they try to argue us. Well, yeah, it might have been true that homosexuals were murdered in the ovens, just as a lot of other people were. But what people fail to realize, the SA or the SS, whatever it was called, that put Hitler into power, was full of homosexuals. They were full of them. I mean, some of the top Nazi aides to Hitler.
Full of homosexuals.
Yeah, they were all homosexuals. And what people don't realize is, they killed homosexuals in the ovens and in the concentration camps, but the homosexuals that they were killing off were what they called, the flaming, what we know today as the flaming effeminate ones. But it was okay. It was okay if you were homosexual as long as you were the masculine one.
Right. It's the difference between, really skinny guy who wears the pink sparkly shirt versus some guy like Jack Donovan. Jack Donovan is portrayed himself as a very masculine, rugged man who dances around a fire and drinks alcohol while wearing, deer horns and says, talks about going back to our pagan roots. Meanwhile, she says the guy in the pink shirt's bad. Okay, well, I'll agree with the guy that the pink shirt's bad, but it's not because he's wearing a pink shirt. It's the philosophy that he has. It's the belief that this sort of behavior is acceptable. Sodomite behavior is acceptable. Jack Donovan is no different. He is no different. It's the same dichotomy between the international socialism versus the national socialism. Neither one is the answer. It's just the emphasis they have. One emphasizes blood and soil. One emphasizes finance and class. That's it. There is no difference in the actual philosophy itself. Because what we suffer from today is we have a philosophy crisis. A crisis of faith, a philosophy crisis, because our beliefs are schizophrenic. We believe, people talk about America being a Christian nation. We are one nation under God. Well, which Lord are we worshiping? I mean, you could argue the country was worshiping, the Lord of the Flies, because what is the philosophy? Do what thou wilt. That is the guiding philosophy, and that is the philosophy of evil. That is an infernal philosophy. Yet that's what we embrace. Whatever the ends justify the means, power at all costs with respect to none. Call it what you want, but it's this idea that everything is okay so long as we don't believe it causes any issues, and it gets you what you want. and it's socially acceptable. We have no philosophical consistency anymore. And you can see the results of it. Why are things going crazy around us? Why do we live in crazy land? Because of this issue.
Yeah, and that's the thing,
That's exactly a major part of the reason.
And that's the thing, believe it or not, and I said the same thing to Ted. It's actually the masculine sodomites that I think are more dangerous than the flaming effeminate ones, because the flaming effeminate ones, they make it clear who they are. They're easy to spot. That's an enemy that's very easy to spot. But the masculine homosexual,
Correct.
He's able to blend in with society, act normal, and then when, and a lot of the times it's with women, women just adore their little homosexual friends, but men aren't off limits to that too. But then they'll see these guys like Jack Donovan, and they'll be like, and this person could be a Christian, and they'll say, oh, well, he's not so bad. He doesn't act like that whack job over there. I'll associate with this guy. He's not so bad whatsoever. And he's even telling us stuff that we want to hear. So the masculine ones are the more dangerous because they are the biggest manipulators.
Yeah, absolutely, they are. I mean, this is the dichotomy of the left versus the right. Everyone criticizes the left, and it's true. The left does have a lot of evil things, but the fact is, you can spot them a mile away. You know what they're doing. They are honest. They are more honest in so much as they don't attempt to hide what they say. If you have this abortion issue right now, you have a lot of people rightly criticizing the left for what these people are saying about, I want, abortion, murdering children is my right, etc. You know what? That's evil. But you're honest about your evil. You're open about it. There's no hiding it. I can look at you and say, you're evil because you said that. That's great. There is a clear distinction made. The right-wing kind of evil, and the reason why we focus on that so much, or have focused on it so much, is not because we're trying to play sides at all. It's not that it's by any stretch of the imagination. It's that the right-wing side will say they oppose this particular evil, but then they will go out and they will do that exact same evil in secret, or they will use like the Hegelian dialectic type process to start justifying said evil until they eventually accept it, or get society to accept it, and they themselves accept it. And that's because they always believed in it. It wasn't like they didn't believe in it before, but they always supported it. It's just they gave the impression that they did not support it. It's dishonest. And that's why it is more dangerous, because the enemy you know is not as much of a threat as the enemy you don't know. And if you think something is your friend, but it's really not, you have a problem. That's a serious problem. It's, the traitor within the walls type phenomenon. A man can survive. It was Cicero who said that a nation can survive an enemy from without, but it can't survive treason from within. When that kind of activity takes place, that's a threat. And that's why we are so emphatic about it, because it not only facilitates the rise of the left, because they're both on the same side, but it also endangers those of goodwill who are trying to deal with the problem.
Oh, and I've seen this stuff myself personally. And I told you the story the last time we talked, but hey, I'll tell it on camera too. A couple years ago, I started talking to this girl online, and maybe hoping to find the Mrs. ND show on 45, possibly. I don't know, but same thing. She tells me that she is a Christian. She is pro-life. She is pro-traditional marriage. However, there's always what I call a but. There's always that exception. I find out that she actually supports Planned Parenthood. She doesn't have a problem if a woman gets abortion. She supports homosexuality, hangs out with a bunch of sodomites. But I'm not surprised though, because I found out she was a United Methodist, which we know about them way too well. We know about their vote that they just had.
Yep.
And the sad part with that, not getting off track here, but the sad part is it took so many of United Methodist congregations outside the United States to go against the Sodomite agenda, which I think is just sad. I mean, good for those people over in Africa, because that's where the majority of these congregations were that went against it. But anyway, I digress a little bit. But so yeah, I call this girl out on it. I'm like, hey, I thought you told
it's fine.
Yeah, I told her, hey, I thought you were a Christian. Why are you supporting all these heretical things?
Yeah.
And she tells me, oh well, if we outlaw abortion, then women are just going to start having clothes hanger abortions. And as for homosexuality, I have a gay cousin. And notice how it is always the freaking cousin. It seems like always the cousin. Well, guess what? My interview with Ted, I talked about this already. I have a cousin who's a sodomite too, and you know what? I don't talk to this guy. I want nothing to do with him. And Ted made a great point. How do I know that this cousin of mine is not a serial killer or something? Because they do that kind of crap. Not saying that they're the only ones that do, but they're the most vicious people.
Yeah, they do it.
They know how to put on this, oh, I'm gonna be so funny talking.
It's just they're
really good at fooling people with this act.
Well, I mean, it's like you guys come out and say, well, you don't know he's a serial killer. You don't know if I go to the gas station down the road and buy a lottery ticket that's not the winning ticket to win $1 million. I mean, it's that kind of logic. It's that asinine logic that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, the fact is, look at the basic statistics. Everything is borne out consistently. This is a group that consistently is more violent, that has a lot of that consistently has a super majority of serial killers that come out from them. It's a group that has tons of issues. I mean, disease. You want to talk about a big issue no one wants to discuss, and it's one of the trends that I follow on Shubat. That's my dog scratching himself. You can hear me. He likes to sit behind me and he's scratching himself.
He does.
But
he's
you want to talk about a serious issue, right? Is disease. I mean, people talk about proliferation of disease. Yeah. Oh goodness. I was writing about this. I've been writing about this for years. But you have among the LGBT community today, people will describe it. If you talk to a sodomite, they will tell you it is as free or freer than it was in the 70s.
And I gotta cut you off here for a second
because there have been medical advances.
But I just want to warn everybody watching right now that if you're going to talk about what I think you're going to talk about, this is going to be very graphic. So everybody be prepared. So please go ahead.
Hey, it's good to have that warning. People need to hear it. I mean, it's a very simple issue here. What you have here with these people is these people aren't just spreading disease. They love they love to do things. They love it that spread bad disease. First one I'll start with is simple. It's HIV. Like I said, there are pills that one can take now. It's actually antiviral medication. It's called PrEP, P-R-E-P. It's made by Gilead Sciences, and if you take it, they say that it almost entirely wipes out the chance of transmitting and contracting HIV. Well, contracting HIV from somebody who's who already has the virus. Now, the actual reliability of this pill is questionable within itself. The big scandal, though, is that it's presented as a miracle cure and that it only deals with, I think, 10% of all HIV strains. It deals with the ones that are found in North America and parts of Western Europe. It doesn't deal with the strains in the rest of the world. There are strains. It does not affect them, especially certain new strains that have come out of Thailand and the Philippines, the two brothels of the world, the two whorehouses.
Oh, yeah.
So what you have is, we know a lot of these LGBT types like to go out and they like to travel. They like to go on those those fancy cruises, the gay cruises and all that crap they call them. And they go over to like Southeast Asia, and we know what they're doing there. It's the same reason why pretty much anybody goes to Thailand. It's certainly not to drink coconut milk and study Thai kickboxing. It's to go out there and bang hookers, is what it is. I mean, that's the crude way of putting it, but that's what it is. So they go over there. We don't know if they're getting HIV or not. We don't know what they're contracting. We don't know. So it is a matter of time. It is a matter of time before one of these strains gets into somebody and that medicine doesn't stop it, and that person doesn't know, and he starts spreading it. As a matter of fact, it's probably already happening right now. I can't say it is, but I'm talking about statistics here. Statistically speaking, it's probably happening right now as we speak. And that's just the first part of it. That's just the first part of it. You have here an issue of, you have many other issues here. For example, let's talk about disease. These people, think about it. When you go to a doctor, what does the doctor do? He puts gloves on, right? Yep. You don't want the doctor touching you, without gloves. Right, man?
There's like a 5-second delay here, obviously.
Okay. These people, what they'll do is they... Okay. All right, cool. Because your video froze in my end here, so it's all good with me, though. I can hear you fine.
Okay, that's the most important thing.
These people will do is they will take their fists and they will shove their fists into each other's rectal cavities. They will do this, and people will say, "Oh, they wash it." I'm sorry, you're putting your whole fist, sometimes your whole arm, into someone's butt, and there's feces in there. It's not meant to do that, so things can rip. There can be blood. You can get infections, and it's very common. This is a very common practice. It's very well established. It's very well established. Disease gets transmitted. Now think about it. If your neighbor, now this is a very common practice. So, do you want to shake someone's hand that you knew was doing that maybe an hour ago? How does that make you feel? Do you want to touch his hands?
Hell no.
That's disgusting. I certainly don't want to. So what if the person washes? It's not the washing. It's the principle that someone would do this. Yeah, it's gross. It's objectively disgusting. Now, obviously, we don't know where people put their hands all the time or what they do, and that's just a fact. Okay, we take that on faith. When we deal with people, it's why your mother always said wash your hands. I mean, it's just, it's a part of basic hygiene. But the fact is, when we're talking about statistical probability, straight people, generally speaking, and I should say not just straight people, but most of the people in general don't do that stuff. This particular segment of the population constitutes a very large percentage of the people that do this and do it regularly, and it's a known fact. It's a known fact. There's no hiding this. There's no need to exaggerate. Do you want to be around that? I don't want to.
No,
a lot of people don't want to because it's dirty and gross. It's objectively dirty.
And Andrew, tell everybody.
I was telling you earlier about yeah, they don't want to do it. You're exposing yourself to.
I'm sorry. I was going to finish saying, tell the people.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
Tell the people about the other part of the intestine thing, or when they stick their fist. Tell them what they do after they stick their fist up there. And this is graphic, people, but it's a reality.
They'll do to practice. They call it rosebudding. Now this has spread in some ways to heterosexual activity among women who've been sodomized one too many times on camera. What happens is when the rectal cavity is stretched out. This is medical here. It's not meant to stretch consistently. It's only like a cell or two thick, if I'm not mistaken. So what it does is it stretches out the walls of the intestines and it causes them to detach from the body. And what happens is your body is able to start pooping out your intestines. So what these sodomites will do is they make this, and they fetishize this, is they will poop out their intestines as much as they can, and they call it rosebudding because they say it looks like a rosebud when it blossoms. And what they'll do is they will have these people put their fists in, they'll grab the inside and pull it out. So they're causing medical damage, physical bodily damage that can result in losing, especially later in life, losing control of your bowels, having to get a colostomy bag, and losing control of your functioning. and they will pull it out because of that reason. Sometimes they'll rub them against other homosexuals, prolapsed anuses. It's very disgusting. They'll masturbate with it. It's very gross. Oh yes, and sometimes they'll cut it so it bleeds, so there's blood, and they will ejaculate into that, especially if they want to try to spread diseases, because it's a fetish. It's called bug chasing. People will do this. They will try to contract HIV, sometimes other diseases, because they believe they find it arousing.
And people wonder, Andrew, like how you know about this stuff. But these people do this in public during the little so-called pride parades, in the open.
Yes. If anybody wants to see what this is like, go to any large gay pride parade. You can, like the Folsom Street Fair, for example, in San Francisco. You can go to ones in New York, but especially out in California. Go to them. Go to any of these. Read about any of these experiences at a local, like a gay bar. These things happen in public. This isn't just like something you see in a porn film. Things happen in public. It's very well known. I mean, this kind of activity, drinking urine, eating feces. There was a story back from 2015 about it made the smoking gun news. There was a woman who sued the porn director, Michael Lucas, gay porn director. And she sued him because under a false name, he rented one of her properties. And it was a mansion. Well, she didn't know it, but he was going to film gay porn there. And when he was filming the gay porn, he left. She didn't know it. She came in. There was feces and urine all over the house, on the furniture, on the walls, on the carpet. They said the hot used enemas everywhere. They said the hot tub in the house was so full of feces it had turned brown.
Good.
It was a
God
brown liquid. She said she had to spend thousands of dollars having the it's disgusting. She had to spend thousands of dollars to have the entire house sanitized, all the carpet ripped out, a lot of the furniture reupholstered or thrown away, and professionally cleaned because it was a health hazard. It was a health hazard. That is what you are dealing with.
It was a
LGBT crisis is not even. It is a moral crisis first. Yes, literally speaking, it was. Absolutely. This is, people talk about moral crisis, and it absolutely is. With the moral crisis, it is also a public health crisis, because this kind of behavior is how disease spreads. Another example, New York City. There was the big thing among the LGBT community, I use that loosely, in quotes, was eating feces. And was eating feces. That's what it was. And what you were getting these homosexuals who were going into the New York Public Health Department, to their division that handles LGBT health, in quotes. And they were complaining that the New York Public Health Department was not doing enough for them because they were getting diseases that were related specifically to, guess what? Exposure to raw sewage. Because they were eating the sewage from each other's buttholes. That's what they were doing.
What do people think is going to happen when you
tell
eat
me
shit?
This is normal behavior? I mean, exactly. I mean, seriously, when I take my dog for a walk down the road, take him for a walk, and he decides to lay one out on the side of the road, I don't look at it and say, "Hey, that's a nice snack."
And let me tell you something.
And by the way, zoophilia,
if there's any
zoophile contraphilia is.
If there's any ladies watching this video right now, think about this stuff the next time you decide that your cute little gay friend or hairdresser, oh my God, he does such a great job of my hair and nails. Think about that the next time he touches you. The stuff that he's been doing.
Yeah, just remember, he's running your fingers through your hair. Just think about the intestinal walls of his last lover that he probably had his fist up.
Yeah, when he's giving you a mani-pedi and he's touching your body, stuff that might get transmitted through it. And, Andrew, not to be your mom, but you got like a crumb in your beard.
Oh, that's fine. Are you getting? I have all kind of things in this. This is what happens when This is what happens when I'm eating a muffin. Pistachio, by the way.
Gotcha. But no,
I
yeah.
appreciate it. I wouldn't even recognize it.
Well, I just had to say something just since this is going on YouTube and all that.
Oh, I don't care. You should. You should. You should. I don't even remember half this stuff here. But it's like you were saying. I mean, people should think about this stuff. They don't think about it though. They want to live in a little fantasy world. And next thing you know, something like this happens, and they're like, oh, I can't believe this. Why would you say that? Well, it's a reality. You know, people say that reality bites, and it does. But the truth will set you free. At least you're being honest. You know, what do you want to be like? Like I said, the Republicans will hide stuff from you. The Democrats will just tell you right up in front. That's why you see these degenerates walking around saying, you know, my body, my choice. You know, I want to rape my brother's kid and be able to get, you know, plaudits from the government for it. Well, at least we know what you're thinking. It's not like you're trying to hide it. It's the same with the LGBT issue. A lot of this is hidden from the public. It has been for many years, unless you were a part of that. Now we have the ability to look inside what actually happened, document it for future use, and say, look, this corroborates everything that people have been saying for decades. So we should use that and not run away from it and shoot the messenger.
Well, and also another thing too is I know once I post this video, I'm sure I'm going to get a few comments maybe of someone saying, "Man, Sean, you and this Andrew guy seem to be obsessed with talking homosexuality. What are you guys, secret closeted homos or something? Because you're talking about it an awful lot." Well, people, let me tell you all something. If the LGTB and the sodomite agenda, which I prefer to call it the sodomite agenda because these are not natural, normal people. But if it wasn't so much entwined in our society, then we wouldn't be discussing it so much now, would we? But no, they're affecting everything from, obviously, Andrew, as you pointed out, health issues. They are now, I found out from PBS on the Arthur Show, they are indoctrinating children by exposing them to this crap. They're getting people well, not fired, but they're running people out of their businesses. They are, I don't know if you just saw what happened to Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire, but they are threatening to kill that guy and rape his family, which I think that's more really feminist and abortionist than homosexuals, but it wouldn't surprise me if homosexuals were in there. But homosexuals now are in the military and they're raping our soldiers. They are indoctrinating our kids in school, and the list goes on and on. So that's why we're talking about them a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the idea of we're going to kill you and rape your family, or not, you know, that, or rape your corpse or something like that, that's something that Ted and I both received many times. So like I said, as soon as you said that, I'm thinking, well, I don't know who sent it, but the fact is, based on my probability, it's likely one of those guys, because that's something we've received regularly from, you know, from our detractors who will get like a video or an article that we did. And next thing you know, it's going all over the LGBT news, and people are going crazy and sending me stuff. I have well over, I think I have at least 100, you know, emails and correspondences showing this kind of stuff. And it's fun to keep as an archive for the future, because, you know, I can tell you, in all my writing against Islam that I've dealt with, my writing, I have never received a threat from a Muslim. I never have. But when I deal with this issue, I receive so many threats I lose count of them. So you think about this. What's the real threat here? I mean, I'm not saying Islam is good, never have, but the fact is, I don't have Muslims threatening me in large numbers because of my criticism, a criticism which I've done for many years, and I question a lot of the so-called threats that other people get, saying that Muslims did them for that reason, because of this. I'm not saying they don't exist. What I'm saying is the quantity and the specific nature of them. However, when I talk about this issue, threats are everywhere, and people are silent and saying, well, it's your fault because you brought the issue up.
Well, you know, if the way I responded is this: if you guys wouldn't be a bunch of perverts and doing all these disgusting things that are detrimental to our society, then we wouldn't bring them up.
Well, yeah. If you weren't busy doing half of this stuff, we wouldn't have to talk about it. I mean, people say, well, you just have an obsession with this issue. It's not an obsession. I mean, I don't exactly look forward to eating my muffin and drinking my coffee here while talking about these things. But it's just a reality of them. I'm very much accustomed to discussing it because it's one of the major trends I focus on. And I mentioned earlier the spread of disease and health. It's not just HIV that's coming back. Gonorrhea, syphilis, and new forms of HPV. Scientists have come out and said that the HPV virus, HPV-1 and HPV-2, are mating with each other. They say the viruses are having sex, is the exact phrase they used. And they don't know what this is going to lead to, other than suspecting a variant of a super herpes. I mean, we talk, this is the same time where antibiotics used to treat these things historically are losing their, efficacy from the past. I think it's drug-resistant gonorrhea has only one medicine left that can sometimes treat it. There is going to come a point, if things continue at this trend, which so far they are, we could find ourselves in a 19th century style situation with regard to these diseases, where people would die of things like syphilis, where they become sterile from diseases like gonorrhea, where HIV is no longer controllable or curable. Some people call it curable now. It's still not curable, but they mean it's suppressed beyond suppressed to a point where they don't have a viral count. They can't count the viruses in your blood. We could go back to a point where that doesn't exist anymore, and you have massive die-offs. I'm not talking about panic in the streets, for example. I'm talking about a medical crisis where certain things cannot be cured, let alone reasonably controlled if contracted. And the only solutions then will be a forced return to a more moral standard of behavior, simply for the sake of your own health.